What if your career could be both brilliant and balanced? What if the years you had already lived, your wins, your failures, your pivots, were preparing you for something more aligned, more meaningful, more you? Today's guest has lived that reality. He's a chemist, an engineer, an inventor with over 25 patents. But he's also a musician, a teacher, and a coach who's helping others live fully, not just work endlessly. Because success isn't just what you build, it's who you become. Welcome to Your Next Success, the podcast that helps you redefine success from the inside out. I'm Dr. Carolyn Sangle, and around here, we don't believe in pushing harder for what no longer fits. We believe in alignment, in authenticity, and in building a life that finally feels like your own. Have you ever wondered, is this it? That question is the beginning of your next success. I'm Dr. Carolyn Sangle, and this podcast is your space to pause, reflect, and create the career and life you were made for. We explore real stories, intentional transitions, and practical insights to help you step into alignment, purpose, and peace. Today, I am joined by Dr. Heinz Plaumann, a global executive turned career coach, executive trainer, and founder of hindsight.org. With over 35 years of international experience in both industry and academia, Heinz holds advanced degrees in chemistry and chemical engineering, has authored more than 35 publications, and holds over 25 patents. But it's what he's doing now that is truly extraordinary, helping others create a life fully lived. He's the creator of Flashcard Leadership, a gifted speaker, and surprise, also a jazz musician. In this episode, you will hear how Heinz went from science to strategy and eventually to coaching, why your reputation often enters the room before you do, how to create a career roadmap that adapts as you grow, the real power of emotional intelligence, behavior styles, and being a learn-it-all, and why success without fulfillment is never enough. Welcome to the podcast, Heinz. Welcome to Your Next Success. I'm super excited that you're one of my first people that I'm interviewing. I'd love to start with, what are you doing now? And then I want to kind of backtrack. But so as people ask you, what do you do now? What do you say to them?
I tell them this. Let's start with my elevator speech. The elevator speech is kind of a picture frame.
Okay.
I paint enough in there so you know, who's this guy talking to me? And then it puts a context so you know, oh, he's worth listening to, or click, he's off. And so I have advanced degrees in chemistry and chemical engineering. I spent 35 years working in industry and academics, mostly in global positions. Globally, I worked in a number of different companies. I pivoted out of that. I retired about a decade ago now. Time is so fast. Time goes by so fast. So now my calling in life is to help other people have a life fully lived. So I've had a life fully lived, as I just described, and I want to help you do that too. And the way that I do that is by helping you do these kinds of things where I have a Venn diagram behind me. There are three things that I think are critical here. One of them is you have to discover what your passion is. Your passion. I call that your belly fire. What's the fire you have in your belly? It's just burns you and says, I need to do this in my life. Your belly fire. And then you need to know how to do something. Those are called skills or competencies. And then finally, you need to eat. So you have to do something that somebody's going to pay you for. And the combination of these three things, finding your passion that you're so fired up about, knowing how to do something, and then getting paid for it, that becomes the sweet spot for your life fully lived. This becomes the center of this diagram. So how do we do that? In leaving industry, I created a company in Quantum Kick Careers. We've reformulated that, we branded that, and now it's called hindsight.org. So Heinz, my site,
Nice.
hindsight.org. And now we use that as a vehicle to train people in creating these things that we call career roadmaps. This is an example of a career. It's just an engineering diagram of some kind. But in doing that, we ask people questions. Say, so what is your passion, your interests, your values? What are some skills you have? What are some things you can do to test them out? And we help you create a roadmap like that. And of course, people are going to say, well, does this really work? I will tell you. My wife and I, my spouse of over 40 years, right? We are doing some downsizing, and she found this thing in the basement. I will read some stuff off of this. This is my roadmap from 1985.
Oh, wow.
Before any of you were born, 1985. And it says that I'm a technical specialist in this company. And then from that, I could become a next level. I could become a technical manager, which is what happened. And then I could do some other things on this roadmap. Finally, it says I could become an adjunct professor and teach. And I mean, I'm an adjunct professor in my retirement gigs at 2 universities.
Yeah.
So you can look at this and say, well, gosh, some of this stuff worked out. It doesn't all work out. And that's when people say, well, what do I do with this? And I said, these are pieces of paper.
Yeah.
They don't work. Change them.
Yeah.
Throw them away and change them. So those are the kind of things that we put into this to help you do some things. Create options. This is kind of a plan. We help you create options, finding your belly fire, create some options to know, well, what could I do next? A lot of that these days is networking. And some people, networking. Everybody talks about it. That is an absolutely key business skill now.
Yes.
I don't say that's not a soft skill. That is a critical, essential skill.
Absolutely. And networking beats any cold application. It gives you choices. I love it. Yeah.
Absolutely. When I teach at university, I say, what you know might get you a job. Who you know doesn't matter. It's who knows you that counts.
Yes.
I had a student say, oh, you're just playing with words. I said, no. It's who knows you, and that's where, no, but you don't understand I'm shy. And I said, there are thousands of people waiting to meet you. You have an interesting story. And so once you created some options through networking, then you make a plan. You make a plan, and the plan could be that diagram that I showed you. And then you work your plan. You make a plan, work your plan, because if you fail the plan, you're planning to fail. Nobody wants that in their lives. And so what do you end up with? A life fully lived. You end up with a life fully lived. So that's the story that we would use. And we have coached lots and lots of people. And, some people say, well, you can make lots of money doing this. You could. I'm not very successful at the making money stuff, but I saved hard. So I'm okay. Anyways, what calling your life is to have a life fully lived.
I love it. And walk me back to, when you were kind of transitioning from high school to college and all of that. Why chemistry? Like, how did that even come about?
It comes back to this thing, you know how to do something.
Yeah.
You're good at stuff. I was good at the sciences, chemistry, math. I went to a small university first. I double majored in math and chemistry, and then stuff happened, and I wound up transferring to a different university to go to graduate school, and there I just focused on chemistry. But being good at something draws you into it. To say, I'm good at this, it becomes almost a self-perpetuating reward to say, I'm good at this. Oh, look, I got good grades. Oh, let's do some more. I got good grades again. Let's do some more. And so it becomes that kind of thing that I would not study Latin or languages, let's say, or history. Not good at it, not interested, not my passion. And that's where it's a matter of how do you discover your passion? There are all kinds of things to do. My suggestion is try some things, talk to people.
Did you have were there any role models, or did anybody, aside from taking classes in school and kind of liking them, did you have?
Yeah, it's my older brother.
Oh, your older brother. And so
I have an older brother, and he went into chemistry too. Now, I will tell you this. Growing up, my parents immigrated from Europe after the Second World War. And so they did a lot of blue-collar jobs, even though in Europe they had skills, but they couldn't transfer them easily because of language issues.
Wow.
And so some of the local grocery stores had these, like for $2, you could buy an encyclopedia.
Oh, wow.
So my parents thought, we're going to make our kids smart. And they bought like this set of encyclopedias. They were all like simple to read kid stuff, encyclopedia levels. They were not Britannicas or anything like that, but they were very affordable. We had them. And my brother and I, we would read them and study them and say, hey, did you see on page 66, they talked about this? Did you see this, how this worked? And so we played off each other with our curiosities. And of course, curiosity is something that really draws you into learning more, becoming a specialist. Now, nowadays, curiosity is called a rabbit hole, so be careful.
Yeah, called the internet.
But that's how I got drawn into it. Yeah, the internet rabbit hole. But that's how I got drawn into it. And I just loved it. And it took me into a very successful career. And now people have asked me, well, how did you transition from being a technical guru to becoming a manager? And when I found my first manager position,
tell us that.
the situation becomes this. When you are a technical person, it's all about my contributions. I have to be smart and contribute. And if you are working in business, in any form, in industry, it's all about making money. It's all about the money. If you didn't hear it, it's all about the money. If they don't make lots of money, they can't afford to keep you.
Yeah.
So I moved into my first managerial role, and I found out it's not about how smart I am. It's about how smart they are, my people. And my success was making them successful. And that became so rewarding for me, almost like this stuff, Life Fully Lived. It became so rewarding for me that I got to fairly significant levels of management and leadership in industry. And some of them were fairly fast, and people said, well, gosh, Heinz isn't even 48, he's a director of this big group. Not because I'm smart, but because I helped others, I think. Maybe I'm smart, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because there's a lot of, and that's the thing, even when I was in R&D, there were a lot of very good individual contributors who were individually all about them individually and taking credit and wanting to, of course they did good work, but there was always this little bit of personality conflict because they weren't necessarily all team focused, even though we all had to work in teams. So I could see how if others recognized you weren't all about yourself, that became a great skill. Yeah.
I'm not that much to be excited. I just injected this little piece of body language. I tell people, don't be a know-it-all, be a learn-it-all.
Yeah.
And it's exactly that kind of thing where it's not my success, it's others' success. And if I'm there to help others, of course, then they help me. It becomes a teamwork. The attitude to say, guess what? It's not about me or you, it's about us. And when the us becomes bigger than the me or you, then we are more successful in a team. And in industry, nobody works by themselves. There's no R&D person that's running a plant. There's no R&D person running a marketing department. So then it's a matter of, how do I tell the marketing people, guess what? This is a good product to sell. Or the production guys, people, I shouldn't say guys, but the production people, this is a good product to produce. Okay, that we all succeed.
And you mentioned some of the international moves. Walk us through a little bit of that.
Sure. We've worked in two very, very different parts of Germany, lived in very different parts of Germany. Once in former West Germany, which has got its own culture and attitudes and a little history there. The western part of Germany was completely rebuilt using Allied funds, the Marshall Plan. So the Allied basically, and this is in contrast to the First War, where the victors there, United States, France, Britain, they basically crippled the country. And some people say that really set the stage for Hitler to come in and initiate taking over the country. Now, after the Second War, Western Germany, what became West Germany, was completely rebuilt and very, very successful globally, industrially, intellectually, universities, etc. Eastern part, where we lived the second time, that was, I'll say, under the thumb of Soviet rule. And in fact, after the war, the Soviets in their wisdom or whatever, they redrew a number of borders. The part of Germany where my father was from is no longer part of Germany. They just said, the Soviet Union just said, we're just going to give this to Poland. So it's not part of Poland, for better or worse. Again, I can't judge that. And the second time, there were a lot of residuals from that difficult time, I say, of some political and intellectual oppression from the Soviet era. Those residuals were still there. You could see that the eastern part of Germany still had a lot of impoverished sections where it not come back fully economically, industrially, and intellectually as the western part did. So for us, that was a contrast. Of course, the whole thing is wherever you go, everybody's culture is different, and it's up to us to understand that they're different. And key learning is not better or worse, just different. And I've given talks on culture. I call it got a mindset. We all have mindsets. My first slide in that says, got a mindset, Heinz Plaumann. And I tell people, you're starting to think you're making decisions about me and you don't even know me. And then when I open my mouth, they say, he doesn't have a German accent. You're right. I'm not German. Why did you assume? It's another one of those learnings. Assume less, ask more. And so I tell people, these are the kind of things, integrating into the culture is a key thing. You don't sell out and become them, become wherever you are, but you adapt in a way that you're not offensible. Now, again, we've lived in different parts of Germany. We've traveled in Germany. We've traveled in Europe quite extensively. I've been to Asia several times. And I've been to South America on business trips and things like that. The cultures are different, not better or worse, it's different. We've lived in the southern part of the United States, and that ain't the Midwest where I'm in Michigan speaking to you here. It ain't the same. Better or worse? No, it's just different. You just have to get used to the vernacular and get used to the people. So it becomes, again, not selling out, just adapting and saying, if I do it their way, it doesn't hurt me, it doesn't hurt them. And now we can communicate, even vocabulary. If you're in certain parts of the United States, it's called soda, other parts it's called pop. I say no.
And other parts, it's just called Coke, even if you're getting Sprite.
Yes.
It's so weird.
Yeah, and weird or not, but again, we can't judge. All we can say is one thing. So you need to know when you go into a store, what do you buy?
Yeah. Aside from helping others and putting, kind of developing them, keeping them first, but what are some of the other big lessons that you feel you learned while in your industrial career and leading and all over the world?
I'd say probably the biggest lesson is to be flexible and keep learning. Again, you're not a know-it-all, you're a learn-it-all. And I'll say I went through a number of career moves very quickly. I never was fired or laid off, but I was always on a steep part of a learning curve, which meant I never really got to the top and became an expert, even in managing and leading groups. And that was okay. I looked at that and said, that's fine. I've done enough for this group to succeed. And now I can go ahead and take a look at something else. And the positions came to me, I'll say, and I don't want to say that with any arrogance, but they saw Heinz is doing stuff in this group that's helping them contribute to our success. Therefore, let's move him somewhere else where he can contribute to someone else's success. There are a lot of messes like that, organizational messes I had to go in and clean up, let's say. And those were my challenges, and I enjoyed doing that. And then said, yep, okay, guess what? I've done enough. I've gotten up on the learning curve enough that I think I can move to a new position. When a new position became available, I would almost always take it. Even international assignments, like I said. I would look at it and say, how can I contribute for me to have this fully lived?
Imagine what your life would be like if your career aligned with who you are, what you do best, and actually fueled the life you want. At Next Success, we support all ages and stages through career transitions, from students exploring majors or careers to job seekers actively searching or reimagining their next move to professionals committed to self-awareness and leadership growth. Stay connected and explore what's possible at nextsuccesscareers.com and follow Next Success Method on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Welcome back. Before the break, Heinz was sharing the kind of wisdom most people only learn the hard way about freedom, alignment, and creating options through intentional career design. Now we get into the creative side of his journey, from music to mindset to the tools he uses to help others make confident, fulfilling choices. How about when it was time to retire, how did you decide, and then what did you switch into right away after that?
I had been doing a lot of, career road mapping. I had been doing that for years. I showed you mine from 1985. I had been doing that in my industrial setting with a lot of colleagues. So new people were being hired, and they said, you want career planning? Go talk to Heinz. Go talk to Heinz. He will help you design a roadmap. He will help you network your way into various jobs. So I already had that reputation. That's another one of those peculiar things. What comes in the room before you open the door? Your reputation. People have beliefs about you, rightly or wrongly. They have beliefs and conceptions, preconceived notions of you before you come in the room. So that was my reputation. Career planning, go talk to Heinz. Now, so I was doing it internally. And then when I retired, I say pivoted, I thought, well, maybe I could do this. I could start a company and do this kind of stuff. But it's worked out well for me. So I was challenged by, this was a senior vice president in the industry where I worked. I had lunch with him and he said, why did you retire so early? And I said, well, at the time I was, I think maybe 60-ish or so. And I said, if I want to do this for a while, think of this. There aren't too many good things that happen when you're in your 70s, health-wise. You don't become the glowing symbol of youth and longevity when you're in your 70s. So I looked at this and said, if I can do this to help others and have a life fully lived for this next decade or so, then I will be very happy. And it's going very well. So
that's
how I
awesome.
decided.
One of the things on your LinkedIn had mentioned a bit about DISC behavior styles. I love the DISC profiles as well.
DISC is one of, there are like more than a dozen of those. There's DISC, there's Myers-Briggs, there's a thing called Insights. Insights is very good. And another method, and they talk about the elements. They talk about fire and wind and very, very good. Also, Myers-Briggs is all good. There's another one that I use. If you go on your phone, you can just look on your phone and come up with a thing called Lumina Splash. And you can do it right on your phone. It'll tell you things about yourself. The main thing that I learned from this is these are my preferences. It's not what I am. And I've seen people hide behind this, like in Myers-Briggs or something. They'll say, well, I am an analytical. And that's just your comfort zone. It's almost an excuse. I'm an analytical, so I'm allowed to be a nitpicker. I'm a driver, so I'm allowed to give a lot of orders. No, to me, that's not the appropriate use of these styles. The appropriate use of these styles is to say, this is what gets me going. What gets Carolyn going? So if I know Carolyn is an amiable person and I see Carolyn, if I give her a hug, all of a sudden, we're going to communicate differently. And I'm not giving her orders wearing my driver hat. So for me, it's a matter of saying, what do you need from me in terms of your social styles? And when I give you that, I'm not selling out. I'm still me. But it lets me communicate better because now I'm on your footing. I'm entering into your playing yard.
I call that the platinum
your
rule.
sandbox.
So golden rule, treat people like you want to be treated. Problem is not everybody wants to be treated like you. Platinum rule, treat people like they want to be treated. But the only way to understand how they want to be treated is to do some observations and see, are they open? Are they direct? Are they guarded? Are they people focused or task focused? And then how can we modify our language so it's best received by the other
platinum
person.
rule. I love it. Look how smart I am now. Carolyn, thank you so much.
Yeah, well, and I didn't come up with that. There's a guy, Tony Alessandra, who had done the DISC Assessments 24/7 platform. And I loved their reproducibility, validity, all of the studies. I loved their training. That had been the practitioner I had done even in recruiting. And so I just naturally decided to dive deeper into that. So I won't take credit. I think he coined platinum rule, but I do.
And I credit you with the absolute wisdom of finding the tool and using it. And that's where I'm sure people tell me, oh man, you're so smart. And I say, man, I don't steal. I borrow from a lot of people. I don't make it mine, but I use the tool. Yeah. I didn't invent a single hammer or wrench. I have lots of them in my workshop and I can use them. I can use these tools to help us in our relationship. I didn't invent it, but that doesn't matter. I can still use them. They're hammers and wrenches.
I love it. I know this from you staying at the Hard Rock when we saw each other in San Diego, but you're quite the musician. Help others understand what kind of musical things do you like to do and how has that concurrently grown along with your career?
No, I'm really excited. I'm excited. I'm going to fall out of my chair. I'm really excited about this now. When my parents immigrated, they said, you are going to have the things we did not have in Europe. You're going to go to university and you're going to get music lessons.
Oh.
So we all had piano lessons. So I studied classical piano, but I hate classical music. I shouldn't say I hate. It's not on my list of listening musics. But nonetheless, it taught me enough to understand. And then when I got to university, I ran into some people, and there were some people playing guitar in our dorms. And I thought, well, I could probably learn to do that. So I taught myself how to play guitar. In graduate school, country rock, like bands like the Eagle, kind of came into vogue. And I thought, well, let me try some things and stuff like this. I wound up teaching myself how to play a most peculiar instrument called a pedal steel guitar. A lot of people think it equals country music. It does not. I played jazz and I played classical stuff on the scene, but it's an instrument. It's like a guitar that you play with a steel bar, and it's got a whole bunch of mechanisms underneath it that change the tuning. And I look at that and say, well, this is just fascinating stuff. Again, it's me going on the outside edge of what's kind of normal and expected and said, I'm going to teach myself how to play that. And I actually taught myself to play well enough that I got gigs in bars and concerts and things like that when I was in graduate school. And then out of graduate school, I went to work in industry, put that box away, and I did. And I put it in the case for several decades. Carried it with us when we moved to Germany, never unpacked it, carried it with us. We moved to Charlotte, moved around, moved to Detroit, and some people here, I met some people, I went to a concert or something, and somebody said, I'm looking for somebody to play a steel guitar for me. I said, oh, I can help you. And so I got back into it, and now I play in a number of bands kind of on request. It's just purely hobby stuff, but it's fun. I gave a talk, I'm looking at my calendar on the wall, a couple weeks ago at a local library called Music is Dope. And at first, the coordinator, the host said, oh, you can't call it dope because dope is like illicit drugs. And I said, that's like 30 years ago. Nowadays, dope means it's cool. So I gave this talk called Music is Dope. Music lets us release all kinds of good, happy hormones. So when you use music, it helps you, it helps others. We started the talk by singing happy birthday to somebody. And we didn't even get through the song. About halfway through, I said, stop. And I said, how do you feel? We sang happy birthday to you. How do you feel? Oh, I feel like $1 million. How did you guys just, audience, how do you feel? The participants, they said, oh, we feel good too. Yeah. So music is very helpful that way. So for me, music is a very important release of stress, energy, and it's just a way to help other people be happy too. Help them have lives fully lived.
Now, when it was in the case for those decades, did you have other musical things that you were doing aside from playing that? Like, were you singing? What was it?
I guess I'm an adequate singer, but I wouldn't say that I don't sing. But I played in some church groups and stuff. They're just almost kind of like, well, can you learn to play this? I said, yeah. So it's a matter of being flexible enough. And so I never played a bass guitar. And we were living in Germany. And again, it happened to be a church group. They said, we really need a bass guitar. I said, oh, I don't know. But you could try. And I did. And now I just love playing bass. So.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's one of those things. If you try new things, that's why I tell people, keep learning new things, spread your wings a bit and keep learning new things because you'll be amazed at how much you didn't know and how much fun it is to learn new stuff. It becomes really rewarding. So I taught myself to play bass, and I actually played bass in this geography here in a swing band, like an old 40s and 50s jazz band, Ben Miller kind of band. And I did that for a number of years. And then I started playing steel guitar again. So for me, music is a very, very important part of my life. And I love to share it.
If you ever thought, what if I had done this differently? Or what advice would you have wanted your 25, 35, even 45-year-old self to hear or to know?
And this will it won't sound like what most people want to hear. So yeah, what would you tell your 25-year-old self? I would say, keep learning new stuff. Don't be afraid to learn new stuff. Don't be afraid to try things. Would I have changed things? I don't know. I have had a wonderful ride. When I look at the way my career progressed in the industry, I'll share this little story with you. I was hired as a research chemist into an industry and got to know, because a lot of the research we were doing was directly into production areas. So I spent a lot of time with production people, and they said, hey, why did you come work with us in production as a process chemist? And I did. And then I said, well, let's do what else? So then I went back to school after my PhD and got a master's in chemical engineering. I said, this is awesome. The company I worked for was taken over and taken apart. Life happens. That's business. We talked about business. It's all about the money. And I wound up working for a German company. And then they said, well, you're kind of a German guy and you speak some German. You should come work for us in Germany, And that's when we moved to Germany. And of course, that group that they had, they moved that group to North Carolina. So on our return, they said, well, you can't go back there. You have to go to North Carolina. So we did. So it's a matter of being open to stuff, assessing. You're always making decisions. And typically we make about 30 to 40,000 decisions a day. And people say, you're crazy. It takes about 20 decisions to change lanes on the road. Really? Think about it. Yeah, it does. So when we're confronted with a decision, I say, get all the input you can, all the knowledge, all the stuff that goes in your head, and then say pluses and minuses, pros and cons, and then say, this is my decision. And then don't forget to check down here, check in your gut, because there's something magical that happens down there that says, good decision or not, good decision or not. And so get your information, get the input, and then decide and check your gut, and then go ahead and do it, and then make the best of it. So I wouldn't throw my career up up and down and say, let's change everything, I wouldn't do that because it worked out very well for me. I had that life fully lived.
How do people find you now? How do you end up working with people, help them out, helping them have lives fully lived?
A lot of it is through the internet. I am a very, very active LinkedIn user. And it's funny, we just talked briefly about my reentry to the music scene. People in bands came to me and said, like, where do we find you? And I said, well, I'm on LinkedIn. They said, like, we don't know what that is. Are you on Facebook? And I said, well, when my kids were growing up, Facebook kind of came into vogue. And I always thought it was a little juvenile, but now I'm on Facebook too. But LinkedIn will be the best place to find me. And you can connect with me there. It has all kinds of little, what I call flashcard leadership videos, little videos about things that are about 3 to 5 minutes long. And you can see some examples there. And then you can connect with me through that. Our website is heinzsight.org. Like Heinz, my name, Heinz. Sorry.
HeinzSight.org.
Yep, you can connect with me there and send me an email, connect with me there. And I'm delighted to help other people. So
I'm big on trying to help people achieve authentic success. How do you define authentic success for you in this moment?
I would say knowing that I have had and still am having this life fully lived, I've done the best I could with what I have, and I have to help others achieve the best they could with what they have. And so that's a lot of wishy-washy stuff. And how do you measure that stuff? And I know people say, well, you can't measure it, it can't be done. What gets measured gets done. And I check in here and say, how do you feel? Life fully lived, man. I'm happy. I'm very happy. And I go back and ask people, I say, so have I helped you? I do that frequently. I'll say, have I helped you? And how's it going for you? And again, I will get those kinds of responses from them. So.
Well, I want to thank you so much. I may end up having you as a recurring guest every now and then because I love a lot of those flashcard leadership videos.
Good.
They're so good. They're so quick. They're insightful. You can easily take action on them. I adore every conversation that we ever get to have. I always enjoy meeting you. And I also so if you guys haven't connected with Heinz yet on LinkedIn, please do.
Please.
And you also need to know if he ever sees you in person, that he's going to end up posting about it and writing about it to help you and your network grow even more. So that's the other thing is you always get to learn and see so many other new and amazing folks just because they happen to know you. You're the common link between a lot of people's success.
Thank
so
you.
Definitely appreciate that.
Thank you.
If something Heinz said sparked a new perspective for you or reminded you of the life that you want to live fully, you can connect with him at heinzsight.org. That's HeinzSight.org. Or on LinkedIn, you can connect with him, Heinz Plaumann. Check out his flashcard leadership videos, career mapping resources, and thought leadership for real, practical inspiration. And if you're ready to explore your own roadmap to aligned success, visit nextsuccesscareers.com and discover what's possible when you stop settling and start aligning. Heinz, thank you so much for sharing your story, your tools, and your presence with us today. You have lived a life that proves success can evolve and that it's never too late to align with something more meaningful. You don't need to have all the answers right now. You just need to start asking better questions about who you are, what you value, and what you want the rest of your life to feel like. Your next success is already inside you, waiting for the permission to emerge. Keep going. You're not done yet. Thanks for listening to Your Next Success with Dr. Carolyn Segal. Remember, authentic success is yours to define and includes aligning your career to support the life you want.